And this is a message to a lot of artists nowadays, is not overthinking releasing music and sharing your art, because at the end of the day, that's what it is. You're just sharing your art, and it reaches people regardless. And if your goal is, or your intention behind making music is to make the music, then sharing it shouldn't be something that is overthought or too overdrawn, too strategic. You should still come back to that appreciation of what the music is and what it fulfills within you. And so I think that's where I am mentally and spiritually right now.
Assalamu alaikum. It's your brother Haq Islam, all the way from our studio in Doha, Qatar. Look at it, it's just beautiful. And I'm here with my brother, G Salih, all the way from Qatar. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Now, G is a hip hop artist, but he's also, more importantly, an activist. And we're going to get into all of that right now. But brother, before we get into your activism, your work with Sudan and everything that you're doing for the culture, I want to talk to you about the business of music.
Yeah.
You started out as an independent artist. Tell me your process.
Yeah, I mean, I started off independent, yeah. So I started off like most artists start off, and I'm making music primarily for myself. I didn't start off with, an approach where I'm putting music out. And when I started making music, it was like the SoundCloud era, before Spotify, before Apple Music was really like taking off.
How old were you?
I was around maybe 14, 15 years old. This was like beginning of high school. And I remember there was some homies, and we had just like very basic equipment that we would record on, and we were using like Audacity or some like old very basic DAW, and we're working, and we weren't really looking to upload it anywhere. It was just something that we were sharing, or we'll send it via MP3 to the homies.
But
So it was
interesting thing,
yeah.
I want everybody to know you grew up in Virginia, correct?
I grew up in Virginia.
In the DMV.
Yeah.
So you had all those musical influences coming at you in the DMV.
Yeah, it's crazy. Most of my musical influences weren't DMV based. Like, later on in life, I started listening to, the Clips and Pharrell's and really appreciating the Timbalands. But I think early on, my influences were what was popular during that time, or what I was introduced to through my friends. So it was a lot of like Kanye, it was a lot of Lil Wayne, it was a lot of like beginnings of the early Drake. You know what I mean? So that was kind of my world, my musical world in high school.
What was the album that turned you around as a 14-year-old?
Actually, let's take it back before that. I think the first album that got me into, like, kind of like set the foundations of my interest in music was College Dropout by Kanye. And I remember growing up as a Sudanese kid to immigrants in an immigrant household, you weren't really getting put on to music. And I'm the oldest of my siblings. Usually you got your older siblings or your older cousins putting you on to music. But because I was the oldest, I really was, it was from my friends. And so I had a friend gift me for my birthday. I remember I think it was my seventh birthday. He gifted me a College Dropout CD.
So at 7, this is when you were introduced to Kanye West.
Yes. And so I heard College Dropout, and I just fell in love with hip hop.
But prior to that, let's say from 0 to 6,
Yeah.
there was the Sudanese music influence.
Yeah.
And how did that inform you as you listened to College Dropout?
I never, like, growing up early on, we would always have music in the house, or we would have, I grew up in the area I grew up in Northern Virginia. The city's called Falls Church.
Yeah.
Falls Church was kind of like this huge community of East Africans, Somalis, Sudanese, Ethiopians. So a lot of the Sudanese people who were fresh from Sudan would come settle in Falls Church, or in the Northern Virginia area, Alexandria, Arlington. So in Falls Church, there's these buildings called Skyline, the Skyline building. I don't know if you've ever been there.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
I went to Howard.
Okay.
Greatest university on earth, I have to tell everybody, but
Yeah,
continue.
and I know you're from the DC area, so
Yeah.
I thought you definitely know the Skyline Towers, because
Absolutely.
so those Skyline Towers was like a community. It was like a second home for a lot of the new immigrants coming from Sudan. And because it was such a tight knit community, we would we're always interfacing with each other. We're always visiting each other. And as a kid, I remember going from house to house, and they would have these parties for sometimes for occasions, sometimes for not. Definitely, if there was an occasion, they're gonna have a party. But um, outside of that, it was just like, they would just come together and feel that connection to Sudan, being so far away from home. So it was family outside of family, and there was always music involved. It was somebody playing the oud, which is a Sudanese instrument, similar. It's like a similar to like it's a stringed instrument, almost like a guitar. And then they it's that culture of music. There was Sudanese singers who were very famous, who at the time were coming and staying coming to these parties and coming to these different houses, and it's in apartments. You know what I mean? So it was a beautiful culture. But really, once I got into mixing with a lot of my friends and this hip hop we started watching MTV, and we're paying attention to all these things. And when I got College Dropout, that's what led me into hip hop. But I've always had a musical foundation.
But I'm asking you about the foundation because hip hop is about the integration of sounds.
Yeah.
And I was hoping that, well, not hoping, but I just want to know if there was an integration of the sounds into your musical experience.
That's a good question. And you would think early on there's that intersect.
Yeah.
But early on there wasn't. That's not something that I really paid attention to or integrated into my sound until later, as I was creating music. So yeah.
So, yeah, because I really want to get into that because I love the East African sounds, and the sounds are, because they're based on Africanism, just like hip hop is based on Africanism.
Yep.
When we get into it. All right, let's get back to the business now. So you are starting out your career. Well, really, you're starting to figure out the music at 14.
Yeah.
Okay. Take us from that point on forward.
Yeah. So 14 was really my introduction to myself when it comes to expressing myself in the form of writing. And it started with poetry. So like I remember taking this creative writing class in middle school. And my teacher had us all, at the beginning of each class, she would have like a topic on the board. It would be like, your parents, or it'd be like your upbringing, or it'd be like your favorite hobby. And you have to write about that topic in the form of a poem. So it would be like, write it in the form of a haiku, or write it in the form of a sonnet. So that would be kind of her medium of teaching us these different poetic, mediums or vehicles. Expressions, yeah. So so that's where it started. And so I kind of like fell in love with the act of writing and expressing myself through prose. And then
Were you able to see the link between College Dropout and what she was teaching you?
It's crazy, like in hindsight, I'm trying to think if I connected the two, but I think it was just a natural progression. Like I think I was so into lyrical, expression, that just naturally I gravitated towards prose in that class, or like expression in that sense. So I feel like it was just a natural progression from, this draw that I had to expression through music, expression through sound, expression through lyrics. So yeah, but that's kind of like where the beginnings were. And then going into my older ages and going into high schools, where I started trying to, do this rap thing myself and write, verses, and like, the music came behind it. But yeah, so and that kind of was something that I'll keep to myself, similar to the poetry. Soon enough, I started sharing it with friends here and there, and then, getting this encouragement or this feeling of, this is really good, or this is even better than the last thing you sent me. And so that drive, because I play basketball too. So I was like kind of competitive. So that competitive nature, blended itself into how I was writing as well. And feeling like, I can write something more um, potent or more sharp or more whatever than the last thing I wrote was also part of the motivation in me continuing to write.
Were you a part of a crew at 14?
Yeah, it's funny. We had this small crew called G Movements. It wasn't based around me or anything, but we called it G Movements. And we're like suburban kids, after Falls Church, by the way. So I grew up in Falls Church, but then we moved around the time I was 8 to a city called Gainesville, which is further west in Virginia. And um, not at all as diverse as the Northern Virginia area. And it's the suburbs. So we were
It
just
had to be a culture shock
huge culture shock
for your family and an 8-year-old.
big time. Now I remember my mom saying, when we first moved out there, because we moved out there because we were growing as a family, So by that time my sister was born, and by that time my kids had 4 kids. Now we, eventually would have 5, my youngest brother, but my mom would be like, this is so far. And my dad's like, far from what? And she's like, but she's feeling like this is far from the community. Far from, the what I knew, what I've known, since I immigrated to the States. So yeah, so we felt that kind of distance from the community, and I don't really think we ever kind of rooted ourselves in a sense of community in the suburbs in Gainesville. But personally, I gravitated towards the African American community, of course, and we were the minority out there. You know what I mean? In Gainesville, majority, white area, white American, and so this group that we had was mostly African American. We had one brother, white American brother, but yeah, so we had this group and we would, make music together. This was early high school, and we like kind of competing with each other on writing these verses and coming over to each other's houses and reporting. So yeah.
When did you figure out you wanted to make this a business?
Man, I don't think that came until late, man. I don't think I definitely didn't start this thinking that it would become a business. I never took the craft as something that I was interested in commercially. I don't think my thoughts went that far. I think it was just the enjoyment and the fulfillment and the pleasure that I felt of writing that took precedence.
But there was a period.
Just
I want to go to that genesis.
Yeah.
When did you say, I can do this?
I think the point was around college time, maybe my sophomore or junior year of college. I was like 19 or 20 years old.
Where'd you go to school?
James Madison University, which is also in Virginia. Yeah. Also PWI.
Yeah, that was 2 culture shocks in a row.
Yeah, exactly. Culture shocks. But some of the homies that I met in middle school when I moved to Gainesville, my 2 best friends, shout out Zay and shout out Tariq, we ended up all getting accepted to JMU. So that was like, okay, we're gonna take this little, group that we got, and we'll go out there, and we made a lot of friends along the way. And in the Black community, if you notice, in a lot of PWIs, the Black community is much closer.
You have no choice.
Yeah, you have no choice, because those are the people that you connect to the most.
Yeah.
And so we knew everybody.
What was the surrounding community at James Madison?
I think the surrounding community in Harrisonburg, so it's in a city called Harrisonburg, was a little bit more diverse. It's a sanctuary city.
Yeah.
So like they had a lot of immigrants coming in and settling there. So it was a little bit more diverse, but it was low income, in a lot of areas within Harrisonburg. So there was kind of like that disparity between those areas.
Yeah, but usually surrounding a lot of the PWIs is the Black community.
Yeah.
That's why I asked.
Oh, okay.
Because, for whatever, I know the reason is the workforce, because the workforce that works at the university is usually
African American.
African American.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
there were a lot of African Americans.
Or you know, immigrants. That's why it's a sanctuary city, because you need the workers.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? All right, so you got your clique. You get ready to make some music. And we're talking about the business.
Yeah, and so thinking about the business came from the implosion of using social media as a platform to promote your art. And I think that happened around that time in of my life, where people were using Instagram, using Facebook, using Twitter to showcase their talent and showcase their art. So I think it came with that a bit, of that environment.
But real quick, what was your major?
My major was international business. Yeah.
So you have a business mindset going in. You're starting to think about international business and then taking those principles and applying it to music.
Yes. Yes.
And this is your freshman, sophomore year.
That was my freshman, sophomore year. But there was always, I'm not gonna lie, and this will probably come up, throughout our conversation, but there was always this kind of disconnect between music for me, or the craft of music, and business. Why? Because I've always felt like this craft is so what's the word? Not special, but even more than that. You know what I mean? Like it's such a release for me, and it's something that's so close to my heart. It's something that I pour my soul into and use to introspect and understand myself and understand the world, that it was hard for me to take an impact and monetize, turn it into a.
That's why you really, this is a very good point, because this is why artists need managers, because you need somebody in your life that's going to monetize it so you can be free to do what you do. But it has to be somebody that you trust, because, we usually, and this has been bad for us as a community, African American, Black people, because we put our faith in someone else who we shouldn't trust, or just handle the business historically. You know what I'm saying? And we got killed.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I was watching a documentary on Louis Armstrong, and if I remember correctly, he was making like $20,000 a show, and his manager was giving him $2,000. You understand what I'm saying?
He didn't know where the other.
He didn't know anything about it.
Yeah.
He just said, and now what hip hop has done for us is we began to take more control of the instruments outside of the artistry.
Yeah.
So this is why I think it's important for you in particular, as you are going through this and developing yourself, understanding business, that you can begin to apply those principles.
Most definitely.
So you don't get killed.
Most definitely.
You know what I'm saying? Okay, so here we are. You're at James Madison. I'm so sorry you didn't go to Howard University.
Oh, man, yeah, I wish.
And everybody was waiting for you at Howard.
I wish I would have applied.
Right down the road, right down the road.
Yeah, that out-of-state tuition would have been kind of crazy, though. I would have had to apply for hella scholarships, but yeah.
All right, so now you're figuring out, I can make some money from this.
Yeah.
Where'd you learn? Did you study a book? Did you understand publishing, or was it just trial by error? You just figuring it out?
No. I definitely did the research. I definitely understood. I'm very research driven. So if you give me anything, I'm most like I'm researching what I'm eating every day while I'm eating it.
Where'd you start?
So I started with understanding. So a lot of these stories, that like the ones you just described about Louis Armstrong, I started understanding and looking at, these artists that I'm looking up to, the Kanyes, at that time the J. Coles, the Kendricks, the Jay-Z's, how did they turn their craft into a business, and what route did they take? So I think that's kind of like was my entry point, is like understanding how they did it. And then how can I take that, the way that they did it, and make it unique to me, or make it authentic to me. So the way I started is my first instinct was just to put music out. And I started by releasing these weekly freestyles over other artists' music called G Styles. And so I would put these out on a weekly basis. And it would be just over beats that were popular at the time.
Well, that's a really good idea.
That I was, yeah.
And that was your idea?
And that was my idea, yeah. So I called them G Styles. And I was putting them out week by week, and slowly I just had, fan base started growing. People started discovering my music. A lot of my friends in the community at JMU and the broader community were sharing it. So it was reaching people. And then I kept receiving these messages of like, yo, this is amazing, keep going. But not only that, but like, yo, this is connecting with me too. And what you got to say here is deeper than just, oh, your flow is amazing, or you know what I mean, your lyricism is dope. So so that's where it started for me. So going from there, it was, okay, how can I get in spaces where I feel like you know, these opportunities can open, or like doors can open. And so I started look. Go ahead.
No, because you're a researcher.
Yeah.
So you had to, was there a book that took you to the business of music? Like,
No, not really. It wasn't a book necessarily. It was more like Google's searches, you know what I mean? Going through Wikipedia's, understanding how all these different artists came to be, or who they ended up signing to, and how they came to those deals, watching videos, YouTube videos and interviews like this, where they're talking about their journeys. So
this
that's
is a very important, because what we want to do is your journey. We want the people that come behind you to
Yeah.
understand, like, so they could watch this and
Right.
and figure out, so how do I monetize? What are my first steps? How do I monetize my music?
Right.
So this is why we're going through this exercise, so that your story can help improve their story.
Right.
You know
Right.
what I'm saying? So that's why I'm trying to drill down on the business. Like, okay, what did you discover first? Was there, I need to control my masses, I need to control my publishing, I need to control what? Or were you even interested in control? Were you even interested in finding a manager?
I was. The first thing I knew was, in order for me to do this and also retain the ownership over the music that I'm creating and over the art that I'm creating, I do need to own my masters. Um, but also I'm like, I think it was kind of a learning process as I went, because it's like, okay, if I go this route and I take this opportunity, what leverage do I have, and what leverage would I have to give up in order to receive? You know, so like, for me, it was never worth giving up either ownership or giving up creative control in order to receive something that otherwise I knew. As a Sudanese person, being a musician is, and I think this is also a big, you know, cultural, you know, difference, is growing up in the States as a Sudanese person, you're never encouraged to go into the entertainment industry or the music industry. It's always safe and secure careers, which is, you know, you grow up to go in the medical field, or you grow up to be a lawyer, or you grow up to be an engineer. And those were the top three, you know, choices that you had, and just pick one of those. It usually within the Sudanese community. My parents and my dad mostly was not so strict on like, okay, these are your three, you need to go this route. My dad was a businessman, is a businessman, and he had his own consulting company, and he was working, you know, across different cultures, and doing his thing internationally. So I look up to him in a lot of ways. And so seeing that inspiration for me was like, if I do go this route with the music, I want it to be, I don't want the leverage or the stake in my success to come from another individual, or another company, or another. I want it to be vested in me and my growth, and grow with me. You know, so but I never saw it as a primary source of income, or success.
Because
Yeah.
you didn't see a successful, like for us, you know, that idea as an African American was supplanted when we began to see success, you know,
Around you.
around you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you didn't see any, like, you know, I could point to Michael Jackson's and Ma, or Russell's and Ma, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then, because my mother didn't, when I first started, my mother didn't understand that. Well, you go Howard University, why would you go into the music business? You know what I'm saying? Then she said, well, man, look at Russell Simmons, you know. So there
Exactly.
you go.
And you connect with Russell Simmons, and
Exactly.
you connect with a Michael Jackson, whereas we didn't necessarily connect with them to that level, because we come from a different background. although we're like 1 foot here in this culture, or 1 foot in this culture, but there's still those the draw of those essential, the way of thinking that our parents had.
So the way you approached it was smart because you said, look, I love music, but I got to do my career as well.
Yeah.
And the career was?
And the career for me going into international business was going into, I've always wanted to go into development, but I knew that I wanted to go into a socially um, adjacent type of business setting. So I wanted whatever business path I pursued to also be socially impactful. So going through JMU and going through my College of Business Education and my academics, I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do, but I was kind of like guided by that North Star of like, I've been to Sudan, I've seen, the suffering and the standard of living that a lot of people live through. And so what can I do to impact people like my family back home globally, including my family back home? And I think that's what set the foundations for everything, not only, what I wanted to do career-wise, but my music, um, my thinking, my perspective, the relationships, the communities I build, the people I keep around me, all came from that initial purpose of um, Sudan. And my parents did a great job at building this microcosm of Sudan at home, but there's no connection that you can have to home outside of be being at home, So they would take us back to Sudan on summer vacations, like most of the Sudanese diaspora, every year, every few years. And so I would get that FaceTime with my family. I would get that, those stories of like how my parents were brought up and the places that they were, the home that they were born in were the homes that, that were everyone lived in for generations.
Did this inform your music?
Big time. Big time. I think, like I said, the purpose behind my music became more than just, like I said earlier, the fulfillment that I felt in expressing myself, the competition or drive that I felt in writing, but it became deeper than that, and it became, how can I speak to um, that purpose, and how can I share that purpose with others, um, in the hopes that that is something that can resonate with the listener, at the least, and at the most, encourage somebody to do something.
So let's go back to the business. So you're in JAMU.
Yeah.
And you're trying to figure out the business side of it. But one thing you do know is that you need to maintain control of the assets
Yeah.
as much as possible.
Yeah.
All right. So now you're independent. You're thinking about partnering with somebody, going with a company. What's that process?
So after I graduated,
And what was your degree in?
International business. Yeah. So after I graduated, like I said, primary in the top of my mind is, it wasn't, I'm just gonna do music full time, although that's what I really wanted to do. But I think the gleams started happening when certain people started noticing. And when I say certain people, it is like people who, whether they have connections to others in the music industry or they've interfaced with the music industry, um, you know, um, felt like they were in a position to guide me, right? And so I would meet people along the way. One of them being my brother Frank Moy, and they were like, "Okay, look, you have this talent, and you're building on your fan base organically. If we do X, Y, Z, for example, have a marketing strategy behind what you're doing, get you out and start doing shows, and in front of different crowds. Um, these type of things, then we can continue to grow your fan base and eventually get you in opportunities where doors might open. The Foot Locker placements, we wanted to get on BT. We wanted to get, on tours.
Did you want to get with Major, Epic Records, Universal? Was that the goal, a goal? or was that
I'm sure if Moore was sitting here and you asked him, he'll say yes, right? For me, and he knows this too, for me, it was more so about preserving um, my agency over my music. That's what it's been for me. The goal has never been for me to sign with a major, receive a huge advance, and say, I made it out. And I think that also goes back to that difference, right? Although I came from a middle class Sudanese immigrant household. Um, I never felt like music was a ticket for me anywhere, right? And I'm very fortunate to be able to say that. Um, to come from a household where I can go to college, I can get an education, I can come out of that education and feel like I qualify for these type of jobs, and make a salary off of these type of jobs and make a living, and still do music, still do my music. That's a blessing. That's a fortune. So I feel like I never felt like signing with a major or getting an advance from a major was my ticket anywhere. I felt like it was more important for me to preserve, like I said, the agency over everything that I'm doing. My music, my career, the craft, my business, all those things.
So looking back, is there anything you would do different looking back or moving forward?
No, no, I wouldn't. I don't think there's anything I would do differently. I think at each stage throughout my musical journey, I've grown and I've learned um, a lot. And I think I've learned how to own this craft of mine. And the music um, scene and environment has changed a lot. Like now, we were just talking about off camera about how artists nowadays, you don't see as many superstars at 19, 20 as you did back in the day. And you see a lot of longevity in the game for these older artists who have been in the game for a while, and you see some superstars who are budding in their older ages, in their 30s, 40s. So, and I would say I attribute some of that to the fact that a lot of artists are reclaiming agency over their art and have um, mediums to be able to exploit their art and push it out. I don't like the word exploit, but
No, it's
to get it out, yeah, to get it out in front of eyes, in front of people. So there's not as much of a need for a vehicle like a label or a publishing company, so much as to facilitate their marketing and get them in front of eyes as it was before. There
But
still is an
yeah,
advantage, but
because that's the debate now, because the music business is at such a low point because the lack of mentorship has and the lack of infrastructure to create superstars is really no longer there.
yeah.
And when you look at most superstars who are Black, they came from a Black experience, a Black record label, who had understood the cultural nuances that it takes to make someone a superstar. So you go back to a Michael Jackson, for example, you trace it back to Motown. You know what I'm saying? Or somebody like Teddy Pendergrass, you take it back to Philly International. LL Cool J, who's had a stellar career, took it back to Def Jam. And you just keep going on and on and on. So when you don't have those boutique labels that'll go in there and talk to the parents and say, listen, like I had to talk to Maya's parents and say, listen, you got to trust me. And then I had a relationship with the parents where I had to make sure that I did right by her
Mm,
because I had to look at the parents.
yeah.
There wasn't that distant thing where
Mm,
I was in some ivory tower. And that helped cultivate the experience for the artist, me as an executive, because I had people that I had to answer to, and I had a culture that I had to be responsible to also. So when you take those Black executives out, you're taking that connection to finding a DMX like Irv Gotti did, or finding a Swiss Beats like the Rough Riders did, Who's gonna walk into like and find a Swiss Beats? you know, or finding a Kanye West like Damon Dash and Rockefeller did. It's not like Kanye West, if he walked into Epic Records now, they wouldn't know what to do. You know what I mean? A new Kanye West. You need somebody like that. And then you have the other problem is that a lot of the new artists, they come out and then they fizzle out after one or two records. Now, I don't have the answer, you know what I'm saying? And I don't want to continue on this because I really don't. And it's just about you. But the music business is at a very low point right now. And people are trying to figure out, how do we begin to produce superstars again? And how do we get Black executives back into the game?
You know, I agree on that. And I take some of those points. But I'll push back by saying I think there's also a redefinition of what success means within music now.
Facts, talk. Speak
So
on that, yeah.
I feel like is the goal for you as an artist to be a superstar anymore? Some people might say yes, some people might say nope. And those who say no, it's like, okay, what does deem success for you in music?
What's the definition of success for you?
For me,
Yeah.
I think I'm somewhere in the middle, but I would say I'm leaning towards that. You know, for me, success is being able to reach people. Point, plain and simple, period. If I'm able to reach people and I don't generate a dime from it, I'm successful. If I'm able to reach people and I generate $1 million from it, alhamdulillah.
But you're different because in many of your songs, you have a message in your music. And your message goes beyond you. It's about Sudan. It's about your culture because you're an advocate for your culture and your people. So talk about that because that's a very good point that it's about advocacy more so than, and making fly music because you got fly music.
Thank you, brother.
You know what I'm saying? But talk about that because that was a good point.
Yeah. It's more so about going back to purpose than it is, you know, the intention is not necessarily commercial for me. It's more so about connecting and about getting music and to those who have the ability to make a difference, or maybe the music is the difference that I make within the hearts of those who are listening. And I think that's always been my purpose invested in everything that I do. But that's what what I would say deem success. And the integration of all these things that make me, which is being Sudanese, you know, my heritage, my background. My dad used to, you know, grow up telling us stories about the infamous immigrant story of how he walked to school and back with one shoe on. You know what I mean? So like he always was reinforcing this idea of
Where was the other shoe?
all of my immigrant children, they gonna understand that story. They probably heard it millions of times. It's like I had to walk 45 miles to get to my school just to learn with only one shoe. And I made him pack, and I can't look where I am now, you know? So it's like, but I think it was throughout our childhood, he was always reinforcing this idea that look at what you have. There's so many people that don't have this, you know? And it came from an even deeper place, being that he was one of those people that
Alhamdulillah.
didn't have. So alhamdulillah, just off pure, you know, mashallah, the hustle and the grit and the ambition that all of my parents' generation had to make it to the point that they are, that rubbed off on me in this way, you know, and what you see now in this conversation that we're having, in that I didn't see the commercial interest as my primary motivating factor. It was just an add-on to what was the foundational aspect of it, which was connecting with people.
That's
And
wonderful.
being able to make a difference in society, brother.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Alhamdulillah.
Wonderful. All right, brother. So now I'm gonna hit you with my right fist in your jaw. I'm gonna
So,
give you. I'm gonna give you a couple of questions.
okay.
All right. First question is, give me the top 5 hip hop albums you listen to, top to bottom, no stops.
Sheesh. Okay. It might
No
be
stop.
easier. That might be an easier one. I'm gonna say College Dropout, because I was earlier.
All right.
To Pimp a Butterfly, Kendrick Lamar.
All right.
Definitely, I can pick any Cole album, but I'm gonna say Sideline Story.
All right.
You know,
All right.
first Cole album. Man, those are 3 ones. What's another one? Front to back.
No stops.
Dang, man, I'm trying not to stop, but I gotta think back. It's a recent one.
Damn, you ain't even reached my era.
I know, man.
You
That's
ain't
why
reached
I'm
my
trying to
era.
go back. That's why I'm trying to go back. The Blueprint.
Okay,
front to back.
okay, that's my era. There
Yeah,
you go,
Blueprint for
there you
sure.
go.
Illmatic, front to back. There we go.
Well, yeah, okay, you satisfied.
There we go. Yeah, I gave you 2.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
It was-
Illmatic is a classic.
Yeah, super
It's a classic. You
Yeah,
know what I
love
mean?
that.
All right, now you're gonna have to choose one or the other. Public Enemy or NWA?
NWA.
NW. I would have chose Public Enemy, but I ain't.
It's rapid fire, right? So I'm going quick. I'm going quick.
Okay, NWA or Tribe Called Quest?
Tribe Called Quest.
Tribe Called Quest or Kendrick Lamar?
I'm gonna get some comments for this. Kendrick Lamar. I gotta go. Stay true to my
I'm rocking with you. I'm rocking with you. Kendrick Lamar or J. Cole?
See, man, now you're making it tough. Now this rapid fire gonna slow down a little bit. That's a tough one, man.
That's a tough one.
I always go back and forth, but J. Cole dropping in 2 weeks, so J. Cole.
All right.
Whenever Cole drop, I'm on it.
That's your.
Whenever Kendrick drop, now I'm on the pantry, so I'm going back and
Cole, I need you to take this brother on tour. He's dope.
Yeah, man.
All right, J. Cole or SZA?
Cole.
SZA.
Love SZA though.
Okay, now I'm gonna give you one. One from my era. SZA or Aaliyah?
Oh man, Aaliyah. I gotta go with Aaliyah, man. She like the OG.
The
With
OG,
SZA,
all the way.
yeah.
All the way, all the way. All right. You use your music to advocate for social change. Your music blends self-determination, cultural preservation, and heritage. Please explain what this all means.
I think it all means being a vehicle to bestow light on where I come from. Being Sudanese, I think now more so than ever, you feel the sense of responsibility to inform others about your country, to bring awareness to not just what's going on in Sudan now, but to the beauty of Sudanese people and of the culture. So I feel I've taken that in heed, but not for any, not just because of the sense of duty or responsibility I feel to Sudan, but because it's me, it's part of me.
Why do you feel such a responsibility towards Sudan?
Like I said, I think it's because it's part of me. I feel like this experience and
But for you personally,
yeah,
you're very much an advocate in many respects. Okay, I'm gonna couple this question with this. You're also a member of the Sudanese Diaspora Network.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're active.
Yes.
Why?
It's a common experience within the Sudanese diaspora. I would say within other diasporas that you feel the sense of duty to your parents and to your people coming from a place like Sudan, where you know that the people are so beautiful, the culture is so beautiful, and the values are in the right place, but yet the cards didn't line up for them the same way that they did for you. And so you have a lot of cousins who are living with much less opportunity, much less resource than you had growing up. And so, like I said, going back to Sudan as a kid and that juxtaposition between being in a village, in my parents' village where my mom and dad grew up, and then coming back to the States and having a house with a green grass lawn in the suburbs, that's a huge cultural difference or something
But it shaped you.
and it shaped me. And I think, like I said, it instilled my purpose, but I feel like a lot of Sudanese people in the diaspora feel that sense of how can I use this, position that I'm in, or these blessings that I've been bestowed, or this fortunate, this fortune that I have in being able to have that perspective, to help, in some way, shape, or form with whatever skill set I have. If I'm an engineer, how can I think about helping in post, conflict Sudan? If I'm a doctor, how can I volunteer now on the ground in hospitals? I know people, doctors who have left from Ohio, or have left from Virginia, who have left from Maryland, and went to Sudan to volunteer at hospitals that were understaffed and don't have the capacity to deal with the level of need that's happening on the ground. So how can I use what I know and my skills to support? So SDN is a vehicle for all of the Sudanese diaspora. I say more so than an organization, even though it's a nonprofit.
And what is it? What does it do?
It's a nonprofit. We work in Sudan to support humanitarian assistance efforts, so emergency relief, like delivering food packages, delivering medicines to hospitals, helping bring water tankers into villages and access to water, shelter support. So we do the humanitarian assistance side, and then we really started thinking about development. Like, what does Sudan look like with this knowledge gain coming back into Sudan from the diaspora, and equipping those on the ground with the resources or capacities or opportunities that they need to be able to make, Sudan what it deserves to be. And so it was a collection of all of these different professionals from all over the world, and continues to be, in thinking about how can we work on these projects to support Sudan in the long term, as well as now in addressing the immediate need.
Your parents, they've really done a hell of a job, just because now I hear the inculcation of the values and making sure that you had the experience going back home, because you're you my man, but I got to put a little butter on the toast, because you're an extraordinary man to just take on these responsibilities, and your whole perspective on what you need to do as a man and a Sudanese man is just incredible.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. No, it's important, man. I think we do have a responsibility. Like I said, our parents came from what we know to be Sudan.
Was the village in Khartoum or outside Khartoum?
In Khartoum. So both my parents were born and raised there.
Pronounced in New York style, Khartoum.
Yeah, Khartoum. Just like the G Salih, G Salih. You'll get there, brother.
Yes, sooner, inshallah.
But yeah, then both my parents were born and raised in Khartoum. Yeah, so capital.
We give your parents my greetings, because they
brother.
did an extraordinary job.
Thank you, brother.
All right, so the Sudanese Network, but you're also a founding member of Now Nights.
Also a founding member of Now
Talk
Nights.
about Now Nights, because my man Ibrahim Muhammad and his beautiful wife, I love them dearly, you know what I mean? Talk about Now Nights.
That's actually how we met.
Absolutely.
We met Now Nights, man. So a blessing right there.
Because in my mind, I'm from Khartoum.
Yeah, we told you honorary Sudanese, brother. Exactly. So you could wear that. But yeah, Now Nights is also, an extension of everything I described, and us wanting to come together as a community, Sudanese people. We started in New York, and it started with this idea of how can we put together an event that brings together the Sudanese community from the New York community, the broader New York community, and we come around these shared values, and also with the value of supporting people back home. In the beginning, all of the events that we generated any revenue from, all of that revenue was going towards donations to support Sudan. And Sudan really needed it at the time, and continues to need it. So we continued to follow the same model and doing these events, and it served the purpose of bringing the community together and also raising money for Sudan.
But Now Nights has grown into, you're being modest now, and so I want you to stop being modest for a moment. Now Nights has grown into, it's an experience.
Yeah.
Because not only, like when I've gone to some events where I've begun to understand more about Sudanese culture and the many artists that you guys have showcased. And not only that, you've taken Nile Nights to various cities around the country and around the world. So you gotta, take the modesty
For
off
sure. For
and
sure. Nah, it's huge.
yeah, please talk about it.
It's huge that we've been able to do that, man. And it just goes to
And
show.
tell the people where you've been and how they can send you some money. I mean, not you, send Nile Nights.
Sound nice, yeah. But I mean,
Come on, you've been around the world.
yeah. So we've been to now. We started in New York. We've been to DC. We've been to Dallas just recently. We've been to London. Um, I've been to Toronto. So we've touched a number of cities, and we're continuing to grow. Egypt. So
That was fly.
yeah, that was
That was
dope.
fly.
That was dope, man.
Ladies and gentlemen, I wasn't there, but they had this. See, he's being modest. I'm gonna tell the truth now. They had a boat on the Nile, and they had performances. I'm talking to the camera, brother. Let me look at the camera. Talk to the people. They had performances on the yacht, a yacht on the Nile. Just think about that whole experience. See, brother, you gotta come on, put the butt on.
Yeah, nah, it's huge, bro. It's huge. It's huge, brother. I think it's a testament to the group that we have that's putting these events together. Shout out Ibrahim and Bayadid, and there's other Nadine, Akram, also Chill, Riham, Love Bones, the DJ. So I think it's a testament to that drive that we had when we first started and the vision that we had for it, but also the way the community is rallying behind this, and it became also a platform for Sudan. People are looking for something like this in light of everything that's happening. How can we, come together as a community and still contribute to supporting people back home?
And you expose a lot of great Sudanese talent.
Yeah, and that's a major part about it too. Is like bringing in Sudanese artists, and there's so many talented Sudanese artists in Sudan and in the diaspora. How can we incorporate them into this event so that people become aware of their music and become aware of their art, and not just musicians, by the way, like painters and clothing brands and food chefs, people who have food trucks and food companies. So it's a way for us to also stimulate, this idea of entrepreneurship and of art and of business within our community as well.
I really enjoy, because Love Bone, she's dope. But there was this guy, an Akram. He's the interesting thing about Sudanese people, which I find, because y'all have such an artistic side, but then y'all have such a serious side. You know what I'm saying? Like, Akram, he's a doctor, but he's also, a
Hype man, part-time hype man. Exactly.
You're a rapper and an international developer. You know what I'm saying? Well, tell me about that aspect of your life.
Yeah, international development. Like I said, when I first graduated, that was kind of my North Star. Like, how do I get into that space? So I started off working with USAID, of all places. Now, unfortunately, is no longer transitioning out of being there. I wonder why. Yeah. It was a good thing to think about. Good question, man. But yeah. So, but it was a in light, despite everything that happened, it was a great time. Great experience for me. And it's something that I never thought that I would start off my career doing. So I'm glad that I got the time that to spend there while it was a thing.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. So that shaped my experience of where I want my career to go. And I saw just all of these incredible programs being led around the world, especially in Africa, which is near and dear to me, and especially in Sudan, where the people organizations were working with farmers to help build their capacity and equip them with the newest and most innovative tools to generate or be more productive, and support their communities. I've seen localized projects where they're helping a community, like there's farmers, and then they also are supporting the markets so that people have equal access to opportunity and to jobs and to products. So there's a lot of programs that I saw that really inspired me, and that I'm continuing to take and integrate into my ambitions and my visions for myself and for the community. But yeah, that's the path that I'm continuing to go down, and I'm hoping to bridge what I'm doing with the music with what I'm doing in international development, and that, you know, it'll be something that's impactful in both ways.
You're a true Sudanese.
Yeah, man.
You got a lot going on in the musical side and
Yeah.
the
And you would think they're two separate worlds, right? But I feel like just like Akram, who's a doctor, but also he's doing like on TikTok, he's doing like content for Figs, which is the what is it called?
unbelievable.
Yeah, the Scrubs.
Yo,
It's a
yo,
Scrubs
I
company.
just love that brother, man.
Yeah, man.
He's amazing.
Yeah, multifaceted, multi-talented individual. He's also like I had a conversation with him, man. He's gonna get mad if I tell the story, but I'm gonna tell it anyway. Not gonna get mad. Don't get mad at me, Akram. But he was recently like, yo, man, I want to get into writing. Like, I want to make music. I was like, make music then. He was like, yeah, I actually did. I'm gonna send you something. So he sent me something. I listened to it and I was like, yo, this is good, bro. This is great. Keep going. And he was like, yeah, man, but I'm a doctor, or I'm working to be a doctor, and I don't know how this fits into the world. I was like, bro, the world is you.
You know,
You know what I'm saying?
he came to me with that, and brother, I'm gonna help you because I told him like, man, we need more doctors, and his heart dry. I said, oh, I shouldn't have said it. You know what I'm saying? So, brother, Akram, I'm gonna help you, brother. I'm gonna help you.
Yeah, man.
Now, listen,
So,
I'm gonna hit you with another right hook.
yeah.
You gonna block it or you gonna take it?
We'll see how it comes.
How it
You know what I'm
comes.
saying? Then we'll see where we go with it.
How you meet your wife?
I met my wife. It's a crazy story, man. I met my wife. I don't even know if I've told you this.
No, you never did.
I met my wife.
But
when
no, but I would say everybody that comes on the show that has a wife or husband, I ask because I don't
exclusively. They gotta have a wife or husband to be on the show.
no, but oh, he got jokes too. You know, no. But there was one sister that came on that she said she met her husband at Umrah.
Okay.
And that was a heck of a story. So I want to see if you
Inshallah.
top that one. How'd you meet your wife?
I don't know if it'll top it, but I met my wife when I was born.
This is a good one.
I met her, so we'll see where it ranks in terms of the way you met your wife.
Well, she wasn't the doctor.
She wasn't the doctor, but she was in the room the day I was born. She's a year older than me, and her mom and my mom were very, very good friends. Her mom was actually my mom's very first friend when she immigrated to Khartoum #2, which is the Skyline Towers.
Two skylines, yeah.
And the day I was born, the day before I was born, actually, they were with my mom, and my mom saw her mom as kind of like an older sibling, and learned a lot from her.
Was your wife born or was
She was born.
She was in the
No, she was born at that
She was
point.
born.
Yeah. She was about a year old the day I was born. The next day I was born, and my mom, Sina's my wife's mom, came through holding my wife in the delivery room. So she was there on the day that I was born. So, and she makes a joke all the time. She's like, because she says I'm always late to things. I promise I'm working on it. But she's like, I've been waiting on you since before you were even born. So it's like, so now she.
What a great story. That's Allah. That's a great story.
Alhamdulillah.
So did you grow up together?
Yeah, so we grew up together. We didn't live too far from each other. They didn't live in Skyline, but they lived close by, and we grew up together in our younger ages. Her and her family were back and forth between the U.S. and Qatar, and so by the time
Stop. The U.S. and Qatar?
Yes.
You got to elaborate on that. So the Sudanese family.
Yes.
There's a large Sudanese community in Qatar.
There is. There's a lot.
Yeah,
there's a big Sudanese community in Qatar. Qatar actually is one of the places that Sudanese people first immigrated to outside of, within the GCC. So those who were in the West, that was a little bit later on, but earlier on, you had Sudanese folks who were immigrating to the UAE, to Qatar, to Saudi. So they were back and forth between between the U.S. and Qatar, because her father worked here. So they would go back and forth, and so she had some of her schooling days in Virginia, some of her schooling days in Qatar. At the same time that they had moved to Qatar, we had moved from Falls Church to Gainesville. So we kind of lost
You lost touch.
yeah, over those years. And we didn't reconnect until 14, 15 years later, at a random rooftop that I got invited to perform at. I got invited to perform by a clothing brand. The clothing brand was owned by one of Sina's best friends' friends.
Sina is your wife.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So my wife's best friends, one of her best friends' friends, owned the clothing brand.
So how old are you? 17?
No, we're probably 22,
22.
21, 22 by then.
In college, out of college?
No, it was after I graduated college. I had just graduated out.
So you didn't see her for what?
Like 15, 16 years. Yeah.
Okay, so when you saw her, did you know it was her?
I knew it was her. I think a year prior to that, we had followed each other on Instagram or something. So we knew of each other. But yeah, we hadn't seen each other in person in years and decades.
When did love enter the picture? You know, I make them great love songs.
Yeah, man.
So I'm trying to figure out how to get this one.
How to get this one in? I got you, man.
So when
You gotta let me write some bars on it.
There you go.
I gotta get that co-write credit on this joint.
Good money in that.
Yeah. Nah, honestly, man, it's crazy. It sounds crazy, but like
Life is crazy.
The moment that we saw each other, the moment we met each other, we felt like it was meant to be. Yeah, subhanAllah. Like we
At that party.
at the rooftop event. Yeah, so it was a crazy experience because I don't think either of us had ever felt something like that before. But it was like a immediate gravitation towards each other, and then the rest is history.
So how long from that rooftop party to marriage?
About 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And now you and Sina, did I pronounce that
Sina,
New York
yeah.
style or did I pronounce it right?
Sina.
Yeah. See, New York is still.
New York still in here. At least you don't got the has in her name or the ghaz in her name, so it's easier to pronounce.
So 4 years later, you got married. Now you're both living in Qatar. How do you like this experience?
I love it, man. I love it. It's been a beautiful experience. It's definitely, somebody the other day was like, is it like a culture shock coming from America to Qatar? I don't think so. I feel like I'm drawn more closer to my culture. And it's interesting with this idea of, I'm sorry if you don't mind going back to this idea of like identity.
Please.
Yeah.
This is a conversation wherever you want to go.
Yeah, I feel like growing up, there's a spectrum to the immigrant identity. Like there are those who feel very close to their culture, that they were born into. And then there's some who gravitate towards the American culture or Western culture or wherever they're raised. And then there's those in the middle that have a little bit of both. Growing up, I oscillated between the spectrum. I felt like I was, when I was coming up in Falls Church in Khartoum number 2, I felt very close to my culture growing up, into my 6, 7 years old. And then when I moved to the suburbs and now I'm surrounded by Americans, I felt like I was, kind of favoring that side of my identity. So it wasn't until later in my life, once I reconnected with the Sudanese community, and that ironically also came with this, state that Sudan is in the condition that it's in now, came this influx of Sudanese people connecting online from all over the world, and getting to know each other. And so I think it didn't come until then that I started gravitating back more towards my Sudanese culture. So it's a very interesting kind of dynamic. And it's not the same for everyone in a household, and even in a given household. Like, I feel like me and a few of my siblings are, closer to this side, and then I have a few siblings that are closer to this side. So it's interesting how that dynamic ends up playing out through life.
And how does that dynamic influence you in Qatar?
I think in Qatar because I had that yearning to be closer to my culture, and the culture in a broader sense, like Sudanese culture, but also traditions and also religion and also these things. I had that yearning. I felt more at home in a way living in Qatar, and and I feel like it's for all the things that we were talking about earlier that you feel you sense when you come to Qatar, that sense of safety. It's very quiet. It still retains some of its culture, but at the same time, it's modernized a lot.
And Islam is present.
And Islam is present, and you feel it, and
You
hear it.
you feel it, and like when I come here, I feel so at peace. As soon as I got off really, as soon as the plane landed, I felt the sense of home,
Mm-hmm.
because it's just so peaceful. And I have my friends here and the great food and just a great experience,
Mm-hmm.
But then to hear the call to prayer,
Yeah, it's beautiful.
it's beautiful.
MashaAllah. It's a
know?
beautiful experience, man. And it's something you won't experience outside of a Muslim country.
Exactly.
So being in a country like Qatar, you get that sense of, as a Muslim, you feel connected. So I think all of those things kind of led to my experience of, that I've really appreciated here. But I've only been here about a year. Um, and yeah, we'll see where the path takes us. But I've enjoyed my experience out here for sure.
Excellent. Before we go, we got to talk about Sudan.
Mm-hmm.
I read that the Sudanese, the government's army is making progress. Give me your assessment.
Yeah, the government's army, which is the SAF, the army military of Sudan, is making progress, but they're still in kind of like this heated battle with the RSF, which is a militia that, although was spawned as a result of the governance structure within Sudan, but is not necessarily part of the military in Sudan or the governance structure in Sudan. So there is this heated battle. And another thing I'd like to mention is you often hear Sudan being referred to as a civil war, whereas in the traditional sense, a civil war is an infighting between its people. But that's not necessarily the case, where you have the population fighting based on ethnic or religious or even political values. It's more so factions of what the government was that are fighting against each other. The government,
Yeah.
not the people
Because
themselves.
those two used to be boys.
Yeah.
Or friends.
Yeah. They're a product. So the RSF is a product of the prior Sudanese regime. And so now that tension has created this tremendous loss of life and violence and humanitarian catastrophes that are occurring in Sudan right now. And from our perspective, I'll speak for myself, I'm very much concerned with the human toll that this war is taking. So politics is always going to be politics. It's going to be influenced not only by domestic matters, but also, as we're seeing in Sudan right now, international factors and geopolitical factors. But the toll that is taken on the people is unprecedented, and it's something that should not be happening, even within the current context. There needs to be there needs to be a compliance of an international laws and human rights laws that we have that govern how the world works, even in these conflict settings. There needs to be a compliance with those things to prevent the Sudanese people from continuing to suffer in the way that they are.
Sudan reminds me a lot of Haiti, because Sudan has been a liberating force that Black people pointed to, the same way we pointed to Haiti. Because Black Americans, there were a few leaders that we admired as African Americans that we would point to and say, yeah, that's my man. The brother's name, Muhammad Ahmed. Yeah, that's who we like. That's our guy, and this is what we learned about the revolution that he spawned in East Africa. But the reason why I say Haiti and Sudan remind me of each other because they're always. It seems like they're being destabilized by outside forces because they were able to drive white people out, or I shouldn't say what, the colonizers out. It seems like there's a whole lot of outside forces that's preying on Sudan.
As is the case anywhere in Africa where resources are rich, so I feel like it's the story of Africa, unfortunately, and is the story of Sudan where resources and opportunities have been exploited for the sake of resource extraction. So yeah, it is very sad that these countries that are so rich are so poor yet so poor. It is a very sad condition, but at the end of the day, it's the result of greed, exploitation, like we said,
Colonization,
colonization.
organization.
Yeah.
What's your hope for Sudan?
My hope for Sudan is, I think anybody's hope for Sudan, which is it becomes a country that is self-sustaining, is sustainable in the long term, is a country. All of my family now has been displaced. This war that broke out in Sudan broke out in the capital of Sudan, where all of my family were living and where all of my family have grown up. So they're all displaced now from everything that they've ever called home. And there are millions and millions others who have been displaced from all around Sudan. My hope for Sudan is that eventually people can come back and feel that they're safe in their country, in their home, and be able to rebuild. This next generation of Sudanese people are able to put aside these negative human temptations that have previously led to continued corruption and continued greed and continued destruction, and are able to actually rebuild a sustainable Sudan. That's my hope for Sudan. And I'm hoping that, and I'm seeing that the global Sudanese community is supporting that, in whatever sense that they can, through whatever, skill set that they have, want to support that. But the conditions have to change in order for Sudan to rebuild. And this war has to end.
Has to end. Brother, what's next for you?
For me, I think you're going to see a lot of continued, I'm going to continue with my music, continue pushing out music, continue getting it in front of people, continue with my humanitarian endeavors through SDN, through other mediums, through Nile Nights. But I think the biggest thing is I think I've grown a lot over the years to really understand who I am and how to project who I am into everything that I'm doing. So with all that being said, I think you'll see a lot of everything that I'm doing through all my mediums taking a kind of more defined look, and my approach to those things has been very intentional. So but I think you'll see a lot more music. I make music all the time. I was just talking to one of the homies the other day, and he's like, yo, you haven't dropped in a long time. And I took a look back through my drives and realized that I made the most music I've ever made out of 1 year last year, but I released the least amount of music that I've ever released in a year last year. So I think now is about getting the music out, not overthinking it. And this is a message to a lot of artists nowadays, is not overthinking releasing music and sharing your art, because at the end of the day, that's what it is. You're just sharing your art, and it reaches people regardless. And if your goal is, or your intention behind making music is to make the music, then sharing it shouldn't be something that is overthought or too overdrawn or too strategic. You should still come back to that appreciation of what the music is and what it fulfills within you. And so I think that's where I am mentally and spiritually right now.
MashaAllah.
Yeah.
It's going to go through more music, right?
Yeah, for the time being. Yeah, we're continuing through more music. And yeah, that's where we are right now.
Well, brother, we'll be looking for it. Man, this has been a great conversation. I really enjoyed it. I'm so happy to be in Doha.
Welcome, brother. Welcome. We're gonna try to get you to stay longer than you plan.
Oh, alhamdulillah. You don't have to pull my whatever they want to say. I'm ready to make it happen.
Amazing.
So thank you, brother. Thank you for taking time to visit the Oasis. Thank you for your hospitality. Thank you for your friendship. And I look forward to, seeing you again perform and being a part of whatever musical experience that you have that I could help you with.
Inshallah. Thank you, brother.
Yeah,
likewise. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
All right. That's it. This week's edition of the Oasis, all the way from Doha, Qatar. Brothers and sisters, I'm signing off. Me and him are going to get some of that good food that Qatar is known for. Assalamu alaikum. Till next week.